Hello everyone. Yesterday I wrote a post on Franklin Ultra paying some of the investments in the Vodafone Segregated fund. So this is a video covering that in case you don't want to read the blog, but there is more information on the blog if you want. So what happened was Vodafone Idea made an interest repayment to its mutual funds which are holding Vodafone papers, and Franklin was one of them, and it received some of the interest payments. So you must have received an email from Franklin saying that it's going to return some part of your investments. So let me open the email that I got. So it was something like this, and you will notice that Vodafone has made a part payment on 12th June 2020 for the securities that Franklin was holding, which was 8.25% Vodafone Idea papers that were supposed to mature on 10th July 2020. So the amount will be distributed to the unit holders of the segregated portfolio, and you must have received this email. And so in this blog I'm just covering the details of it. So what really happened was back in January 16, 2020, Franklin had marked down its investments in Vodafone papers to zero, and the reason was that there was a Supreme Court ruling that required Vodafone to pay huge license fees. So Franklin marked down in the anticipation that Vodafone papers will be downgraded to junk, which eventually happened on 24th. And that's when Franklin created this segregated portfolio and moved some of the units from your main portfolio to the segregated one. So as I said, like the papers were supposed to mature on July 10th, 2020, which is when you will get all your investments back if Vodafone pays back its pays back everything. But as of now, what we are receiving here is an intermediate payment because Vodafone paid Franklin, and Franklin is going to distribute everything back to us. So this is something. This is good news for us. So here you can see, let me make this a little bit big. Yeah, so here you can see that Franklin has investments of about 7,990 units in Vodafone Idea papers, which are supposed to mature on 10th July 2020. So now the question is, how much will you get back from Franklin? So given that this is just a partial payment and this is just an interest payment from Vodafone, this is going to be very tiny, and you're going to get a small portion of that tiny thing because there are many investors who have invested in Franklin, and you're one small person in that. If you really want to find out how much you will get back from Franklin, what you can do is you can go check your CAMS statement and look at how many units you have in your segregated funds. So here I'll show you in my case. So I have these three investments, and then after segregation, these are the ones that got allocated to me. So after this, you can go into each of your investments and add up all the units that you have. Here I marked them all as X's because I don't want to show you how many units I have, but you can just add them up. And once you've added up all the units, what you will do is you have to find out 7.58% of those units, and for that many units you will get back the money, and that many units will be extinguished from your investment. So what happens is the number of units in your portfolio will reduce by that much. So in this example, I've taken 10,000 as the number of units. Let's say you have 10,000 units in the segregated fund, then 7.58% will give you 758 units. From there on, you'll have to find out how much each unit is worth. So in this case, in my case at least, it's 1.4325 rupees per unit, and that you can find out from the email that you got. So again, here is the different values for different units. This is what I got in the email. So if you have invested in retail plan growth option, then it will be 1.34, and so on and so forth. So mine is a direct investment and it's in super institutional plan growth. You can find this out again in your CAM statement. It will show clearly say what your investments is. Like in my case, it's ultra short term bond fund, super institutional plan. So once you have figured out what is the price of the unit, then you can figure out how much you're going to get by multiplying the number of units that you got by multiplying those number of units you have invested times 7.58, and then multiplying that number with with whatever the unit price is. So in this example, it's going to be about 1,085 rupees, and after extinguishing, the number of units in your portfolio will become 9,242 instead of 10,000 that you were supposed to have. Now the payment should be, if I understand correctly, should be paid back to your bank that was registered with the AMC, and you should expect this amount to be paid by June 17, 2020. That's what the email said. I'm assuming that the amount will be paid back to your bank because hopefully this is not related to the winding up situation and all the things that are happening with Franklin's court cases. Coming to the taxes, I'm not 100% sure. Some people are saying that if you have invested more than 3 years ago, then you can take the indexation benefit and 20% tax on long-term debt fund capital gain. But I'm not really sure. In my case, it seemed like the segregated the date on which the segregated fund was created, that's when there was a transaction where the units moved into the segregated fund, which was on January 24th, 2020. So I'm assuming that will be the date, that transaction date. So if you receive the money in your bank today, then it isn't like 3 years, it's not even a year since the units were created. So I'm assuming all of this will be considered as short-term capital gain, but I'm not really sure. If that is the case, then you will add up this income to your other income, so your regular income, and you'll have to pay tax at your nominal rate. So it will be whatever your tax slab is. So that is all I understand so far. If I have any other information, I'll update my post, and that's it for now. Thank you.